So I'm Congressman Gregory Meeks from New York, and the ranking member on the House Foreign Affairs team, and just recently came back from Israel with Chairman McCall. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. We met with some as we departed Israel yesterday. I want you to know your being here means a heck of a lot. Your voice is extremely important because we must bring your loved ones home and keep that on front of everybody's minds, that your family members must be brought home. And we must expose the perpetrators of those who have captured and killed innocent Israeli citizens. Mr. McCall and I hosted earlier today a video showing the terrorists who are not fighting for freedom or anything of that nature. Their one mission, the one thing that they said on October 7th by their actions and continue to say today, is to kill the state of Israel and Jewish people. The world needs to know that we cannot allow such heinous and terrorist action to survive on this planet, and that we've got to destroy every infrastructure that they have so that there can be peace in the Middle East. And so I want you to know that the United States of America, and this Congress, Democrats and Republicans, House and Senate, that's why we passed a resolution shortly after on the House side and on the Senate side, stating that the United States Congress is in lockstep with the state of Israel. And we will stay and stand strongly with them. And the United States Congress will not rest. We'll be working with the state of Israel so that you can get back your family members, so that you can resume the peaceful lives of which you had, and so that we can make sure we wipe out Hamas, so that evil no longer exists. We stand with you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for speaking up. Thank you for standing up. We are with you.
I'm proud to stand here. My name is Richard Blumenthal. I'm from Connecticut. Proud to stand here with my colleague and friend, Lindsey Graham.
I so appreciate you being here. You know, we're members of Congress that you're looking at up here. But what we're seeing, looking at us, is the faces of the families that are here to help us get these hostages back. You know, I'm a member of the U.S. Senate, but number one, I'm a mother. Hamas, you have made a very grave error in judgment because we're coming after those hostages.
Diane, you're a big listener, a big learner. What have you learned the most being there?
It's a good question. What have I learned? Well, look, I love talking to the various folks. I think there is, I'm certainly interested in Indonesia. I think that that's a country to keep our eyes on. I think there's a lot of interest in what's happening there in the entrepreneurship. I've had a lot of interesting conversations with people from Cambodia, Vietnam, what's happening there. So I think the entrepreneurial energy and how they're using AI is very interesting. It's great to have the opportunity to speak to Chinese companies because we get so focused on the politics that you forget about the innovation that goes on in the ground. So some of the incredible things they're doing with AI and what some of the things that are happening in the clean tech space. Very interesting. And I suppose the other thing that I've found quite interesting is a lot of investors, it's hard to raise capital in the US right now. So there's a lot of focus on trying to raise money from wealthy families in Asia. And as we know in Asia, a lot of the biggest companies are also synonymous with the billionaires and the wealthiest people. So there's, I'm sensing more of a pivot toward Asia in terms of trying to get the capital that you used to raise in the US to do the things here.
Diane, I'm going to steal one of your famous questions and ask you, is there anything on your radar right now that you want to put on ours?
Yeah, I think what's interesting, I was watching Sean Hannity last night and talking to people on the streets, and I think going into an election year and the rhetoric that we're hearing out of the Republican Party, and whether there's an acknowledgement or, you know, obviously I'm not partisan either way. I think that Biden was playing to his base, as will Trump and Haley and everybody else. I think that this will be seen, that this will be used as something to show that Biden is soft on China. I think that'll be the message on one side of the House. I think with everything else that's going on in the world, I'll be very interested to see to what extent do we embrace the role the U.S. has to play right now with the geopolitical landscape, because that's top of mind for all these business leaders. These are global companies. They operate in a global landscape. And when Europe and the Middle East are so unpredictable, Asia's where the growth is. Making enemies is not good for our bottom line. So I'm very interested to just see how this plays out on both sides of the political spectrum.
Diane, enjoy the rest of your time at APEC. Thank you so much for coming on and telling our viewers, giving us a taste of what's happening there. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brittany.
I now recognize my friend, Mr. Burchett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's an honor to call you a friend, brother. Thank you for what you did for our country and what you continue to do. Before I give my questions, I just want everybody to know that Staff Sergeant Ryan Canals was the last person who died in Afghanistan, and he was a constituent of mine. His family are dear friends of mine, and they named I live on a state highway, and they named that, at my suggestion, they named that road after him. So I'm reminded of his sacrifice and the sacrifice y'all and your people have made. So thank y'all so much. I'm wondering, and you can just answer these briefly because I've got quite a few questions. General Sadat, what was the fighting like with the Taliban before President Biden's go-to zero order, and what was it like after?
Sir, on the 31st of April, the last of American troops left from Helmand. On the 1st of May, the attacks in Helmand has decreased by 380%. This was like influx of hundreds and hundreds of Taliban driving from Iran and Pakistan. And the first provincial capital they wanted to capture was Helmand, where my command was. Unfortunately, Helmand is located just as a nod in front of Iran and Pakistan. In the 4 months that continued, the Taliban has lost 10,000 of their forces, but they couldn't take Lashkar-Gah. They conducted 17 suicide attacks only against myself when I was moving from one front line to another, but they couldn't take what they wanted to take. But the fighting was vicious. We lost a lot of people. Taliban lost a lot of people. It was very tough, very difficult. It was like in the movies. You can only see it in some of the World War II movies, except it was real.
Right. My father fought in the Second World War, so in the Pacific, so thank you. Were the women and girls allowed to go to school before President Biden withdrew from Afghanistan?
Yes, sir.
And I assume they're not now. That's correct. Is that correct? No? Okay. Mr. Raggio, is that how you pronounce that name?
Yes, sir.
Oh, got it right. How many articles or studies did the Foundation for Defense of Democracies publish about the Taliban possibly taking over before it happened?
I couldn't count, sir. We published numerous studies on Yeah, I honestly, sir, I just, this
So you
was
weren't
something-
surprised,
Yeah, no, I wasn't surprised. This is something we warned about.
right? Were you
beginning in
surprised at
2000.
how fast they did take over?
No, sir.
Okay. Why does this administration continue to say they were surprised by how quickly the Taliban regained control? I mean, everybody was talking about it. Everybody said it was going to happen. It was on the news. It just seemed to me, that with them to say that, to me, was just ridiculous.
It would be an admission that if they knew that Afghanistan would have collapsed so quickly, then, and they withdrew anyway, it would have been an admission that they left Afghanistan to the predations of the Taliban.
Okay. Why does this administration continue to say, though? Why would they say they're surprised? I mean, they just have to admit they were wrong. I mean, it's kind of like our southern border. They can't admit we got a problem with fentanyl because they'd have to admit it's coming over the southern border. I mean, it's the same type of deal. It's kind of a diversion, in my opinion. It just seems to me, you made a mistake, let's move on. Take your lumps and go.
Yeah, I think this administration, look, either it understands that Afghanistan was going to collapse or it didn't know. Neither is good. So it's maintained the quick collapse narrative in order to not, this administration doesn't want to reflect on its failure in issuing the order to withdraw from Afghanistan. Even the State Department report that was issued, I want to say a month or two ago, the primary blame was placed on President Trump. And as I've said numerous times, that Doha deal was a mistake, but it was a mistake that could be corrected. The withdrawal could not. The administration clearly hoped that it would gain some type of Vietnam-esque decent interval, withdraw from Afghanistan. Maybe it collapses in a year or two and they could point the finger at the Afghan government.
I'm running out of time real quick. If the evacuation were properly planned, would the attack at Abbey Gate have occurred?
No, that would have been an extremely difficult attack to have been carried out at Bagram. Anyone who's been to Kabul, which I have, and of course my panelists has as well, it knows that conducting an evacuation from Hamid Karzai International Airport would have resulted in an absolute disaster.
Great.
A private in the U.S. Army would have understood this, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett. You should know while I pinpoint us on starting on time, I have a laissez-faire approach to stopping the clock for individuals. If you're saying something valuable, we want to hear it.